Hello, welcome to another video, and today I'm going to be creating a character based on 3 different colors that are chosen at random. Normally I use my alcohol markers, but this time I decided to use my colored pencils. So the colors that I chose were True Blue, Crayols Light Blue, and Prismacolors Scarlet Red, which I saw more as an orange. Like I said, I usually use my alcohol markers, but those markers bleed through this sketchbook's pages, and I really didn't want to deal with that this time. So I found all my colored pencils and I put it in this container, and then I looked in the opposite direction and I picked 3 colors at random. A black erasable pencil fell out, so I decided to use that one for my sketching process, but it's not going to be part of the actual design. So I thought this was a pretty cool color palette. Like I said, I got 2 blues and an orange. And I knew I wanted orange to be my accent color for this design. I was also focusing on it a lot when I was writing this list of what I wanted to add. I wanted to do like this autumn or winter design. I wrote things like maybe a fire and ice design or something like that. But I finally settled on more of an ice themed design, and I went from there. I had this idea of these icicle horns. As you can see, I'm just like tapping a lot. I don't even know what I'm going to do at the very beginning of this. It took me a really long time to even figure out what I was going to do. So I just started sketching. And then I started to look random things up, and nothing was really speaking to me. So I just kind of sat there for a hot minute. So let's go to when I'm not sitting there. So I had this idea for these icicle designs, so like these horns, and so I looked up a picture of horns, and then I drew this like head down below at the bottom of my sketchbook because I realized I didn't put enough room on the top sketch, and I started to sketch out these horns, a set of 3 basically, that go just like straight up. So I sketched out exactly where I wanted them to fall on the head, and then I just kind of sketched them out. I also had this idea for this split open mouth thing that I was also doing, and then these eyes that go right out of the head. And then I also had this other idea of making it sort of like this Ice King type situation, but I quickly threw that out after I didn't really like this headpiece, and I was like, nah, let's not do that. So I started to do the eyes that like kind of go off of the head in a very spiky motion, and I spent way too long on them for them to end up not in the final design, which was kind of funny, but I still like the idea. So maybe as it goes along I'll add that back in, but probably not. I like how this design turned out. But yeah. Like I said, I decided to try this like split mouth thing. I tried to do a really big wide mouth because I was starting to lean into this creepy style of thing, of like this creepy design, and then I kind of just went from there. Eventually I decided to change the wide open mouth to more of a closed mouth, and then I put the parts of the skin that'll stretch when you open the mouth to make it look abnormally large on the sides. And then I started to figure out what I wanted like the rest of his design to look like, and I started with these flowing kind of ice things, and I wanted those to be strips of ice that kind of wrapped around his body and then make him abnormally thin. But then I was like, nah, that's super impractical, so I kind of switched it around, and I decided to do this sort of like thumbnail sketch, this like quick little sketch, and I decided that maybe it's frozen pieces of cloth. And so when I thought about it more like that, the rest of the design and therefore the character itself started to form. And so welcome to my ice mummy. I don't really have a name for him, so we have Frozen Mummy Dude is what I started to call him. I figured this guy got wrapped up as a mummy, got hung down inside of a frozen cave, and this created these icicles on his head. Anyways, as you can imagine, he died and is now an undead living being that's haunting the cave that he's trapped in. That's kind of the vague idea for his story. Like I said, I don't really have a name for him, but maybe his name was lost to time because he's like super ancient and he's just a ghost story now. I'm not sure what he did to deserve his punishment, but I'll figure it out and we'll go from there. Maybe that's lost to time too, unless I think of something. I have a few different ideas floating around my head. Maybe I'll make like a little myth video about him. We'll see. Anyways, the red glow, because I feel bad kind of leaving out the color red. It was a scarlet red. I turned that into his eye color because the color red is often, in my world, associated with Ember, who's the goddess of fire, but also the goddess of rebirth. And that's one of her colors. And so maybe she brought him to life for some reason. That would probably maybe be part of the story as well. But yeah, I went into Procreate because I wasn't sure how much footage I had lost because I ran out of memory halfway through sketching. So I went into Procreate and just decided to sketch out his final design for you guys, and this is kind of what I came up with. Basically, I used the lighter blue as like his frozen skin, and then I used the darker blue for the wrappings, and then I used the red for his eyes. So that's kind of how I use this color palette. And here's the final little sketch, and yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little lore dump type thing.